Welcome to the TIMFD podcast. Today is my favorite day is about appreciating every day as it comes, no matter what life throws at us. We hope this podcast speaks to you, and if it does, please like, share, and comment. Now let's find out why today is our favorite day this week.
Well, David, welcome back. Today is my favorite day.
It is always.
So the question this week would be, how do we honor mom?
How do we honor mom? So we talked about the scripture we would like to give you guys, and then we'll go from there. So this is out of Exodus 20, verse 12. Honor your father and mother so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. So it's basically the only out of the 10 commandments, the only commandment that comes with a promise.
Yes.
And it says that we live long in the land. So I think that's kind of interesting just to think that there's a blessing in how to honor mom. So let's talk about because both of our mothers have passed away.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So how can we, as men that have a little more maturity to us, how can we still honor mom after they've passed away?
Right.
Because both of our moms were believers. Mm-hmm. We're going to see them in heaven.
Yes.
We're going to see them in glory, which is going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you do to honor your mom? And then we'll get into other things.
Yeah. So one of the things for me is I know that my mom was a prayer warrior, and she covered me in prayer all the time.
Yeah.
All the time, as she did my sisters. I'm just a little selfish and think it was more about me than them, right? And so, but I always have the thought that she watches over what I do.
Okay.
She's in heaven.
Yep.
And so nothing is from her sight, And so to honor her, I have to be a good husband first.
Sure.
I have to take care of my family in every aspect, however that looks like. And what's been going on with our family and between my mother-in-law and the kids coming from Poland, Ukraine.
You guys got a lot going on.
Yeah, we got a lot going on. But first and foremost, am I serving and loving God?
Yeah.
Am I doing what God has called me to do? And if not, I know that hurts her heart.
So you feel to honor your mother is to be able to live your life as best you can. That is sanctification process. Yep. Living it to become more like Jesus. Mm-hmm. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And in all those things, if I gaze at God, if I focus on Him, then all these other things fall into line. Definitely not in my timing.
No.
We could go on for hours about that, right? But it does eventually fall in line, and then we can sit back and say, "Thank you, God."
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line, somebody prayed for patience for me, and that had to be right. But
unfortunately, I prayed for that for myself. In college.
But I really believe that if we look deep at the way we were raised, deep at the things our mother said to us, that we will know what it is that brings joy to her heart. Okay, I know that she loved coming when I would preach. We didn't do online services back then.
Yeah.
So, but I know that whenever I preached, she tried to get there. Now she was 4.5 hours away.
Wow.
So
that's dedication.
Yeah. And it's just by doing what I know God's called me to do, I know I'm honoring her.
Yeah.
But I'm also honoring God.
Yeah.
Because I'm listening to the calling.
Yeah.
By doing what He wants me to do. And do I always make the right decisions?
No.
But I will tell you one thing. My mom might have shook her head and, but the forgiveness was always there.
Yeah.
I mean, our moms forgive us,
I know for me, my mom, I think that, one thing when she was alive was just to call her up, talk to her. She wanted to know
that the most.
Yeah, she wanted me to, pray with her and Dad until Dad passed away. Then I pray with her, and they wanted to take prayer requests from me and our family, and so that was a big way of honoring her and just kind of hearing where she's from and what's going on in her life. So I was on the phone a lot because I lived across the country. Yep. My sister Dawn honored my mom by being right there all the time, and she helped my mom. My mom and Dad helped her when she had her children, raising her children. But then when they grew older, Dawn honored her by being there with her the entire time. And that was a true honor. Now, my siblings did the same thing, but they were further away. I think Dan was about 3.5 hours and Denise maybe 2.5, something like that. They'd probably correct me on that, but they would come down a lot, and they would honor my parents by being there on holidays, or they actually set up where they would do Thanksgiving the week before, so they could be with their own, their own kind of family, but they all would come together, other than myself and here in Florida, come together, and then I get on the phone and talk to them.
Right.
But they honored my parents and my mom specifically by doing that. Right. My sister Denise, who was estranged from my mom, and they did not get along for the longest time. When that turned around, Denise and my mom became really good friends, and there was an honoring of mom by Denise making that kind of decision. I'm going to start honoring her. My brother is just built to honor people. I mean, that's what he does. So I mean, he was always, calling her up, finding out what was going on. My parents really helped him when Maddie, my brother's only child, Maddie, was born and had and there was one part of her life that when she was younger that was really dangerous. And my parents went up there and hung out with them and did all that kind of stuff. So I think that there's ways we can honor when they're alive, but also now, obviously same thing. I'm not going to go reiterate it. Live my life the best I can. And I know my parents would love to know that I honored my wife.
Yes,
huge.
Absolutely. That is huge. I know when I look back at the last few years of mom and dad's life, both of them, my second to the oldest sister, Jean, she was the primary caregiver.
Okay.
And when mom started into the full-blown Alzheimer's and everything else, she was there for me. And she was there all the time. Yeah. Now, Lois moved in and helped. Sharon was there from time to time to help. And Fran lived up in Massachusetts. She came down to Pennsylvania quite frequently to help. And so the girls really, really did pitch in and honored mom and dad both. I look at, I know how my mom would think about that. Jeannie, go have fun.
Go have fun.
Go have fun.
Yeah,
I'll be okay. I'll be okay.
But the daughters cared.
They cared,
and that's important.
And that's very, very important. And so, and I believe God honors that dedication also. Yeah. In the long run. Yeah. And so, but that care that we have to give, because mom was always there for all of us.
Of course.
But that care that we give, and you talk about estranged, that Sharon, she was our problem child as growing up. Ran away from home, all that kind of stuff. And when she finally came back to the Lord and everything, she grew up in church. Yeah. She grew up the same way we did. And she runs away at 13 years old, and we're like,
what's going on?
What's going on here, right? But when she came back around, then there was a true love and respect there. Sure. And the thing with my parents, I mean, I know most of what happened. My sisters know part of what happened. Yeah. I was around more. Yeah. And that was just like the prodigal, just like when Sharon finally came back into the fold. And so, and their relationship grew from there. So, and I think now by doing what we know mom would want us to do and how she would want us to behave towards our family, our siblings, and everything else, that is how we can truly honor them when they have passed.
And that's the struggle, the other side of Mother's Day and coming up this coming weekend. And that's why we're talking about moms. It doesn't have to be for Mother's Day weekend, but it's a big deal for people, at least in the United States.
Right.
How do you honor, or can you even honor, when your relationship with your mother was very, very difficult? I did not have that, but I know other people who have. And how do they, because it says that God honors, wants us to honor our father and mother. And so how do you do that? I know a couple of people who are very much estranged because the mothers were unhealthy people. I mean, it's just what it was. And counselors are saying, get some distance. This is not healthy for you. One would be praying for God's blessings on the mom. Another one would be praying also for a reconciliation and a cleaning up of whatever the mess was. I've seen a mom where she hurt her kids pretty bad, and there was an estrangement, and it was the kids that just prayed for this mother but kept their distance.
Yeah.
And it was her having to make a choice, make a choice to say, I'm going to go clean this up, and made amends, and literally made amends with their kids. And when that happened, the relationship came back together again. But at least it also took the other kids to not stay angry with her.
Yes.
Right? To forgive her. So, here comes mom and saying, I want this relationship in a healthy place. What do I need to do? If that person is told, this is what we need, then mom has to make that choice, right? That mother needs to make that choice to make those amends. And the others need to forgive.
Right.
I'm not here to admonish moms. That's not what we're talking about here.
No.
What we're talking about is people who have estranged relationships with mother. How do you do that?
Right.
How do you deal with that? And it's always about reconciliation. It's also making amends, and it's confessing sin, and it's about humbling myself before the Lord so he could lift me up. And so that's hard. And if so there's a lot of that going on.
And it's difficult. I know that I have a child who is fairly estranged from her mother.
Yep.
And for several reasons, the problem, as I see it, is that neither one of them are at a place in their lives yet where they want to admit the mistakes and come together.
Yeah.
Neither one of them are actively praying for
that's
reconciliation.
I think
that is huge. I think that, and the thing is that both of them right, both of them wrong. I can see both sides of it.
Sure.
Okay. Unfortunately, I tend to side with my daughter, right? But the thing is that if they would start the prayer process and the forgiveness process, and then say, okay, God, show me where I was wrong in this, and help me forgive myself.
Yeah.
And then God will break down those walls, those barriers and things like that. And it's going to take time, but it's just exactly like you said, if one of them calls and say, hey, I would really like to start the reconciliation process, what do I have to do? What would make you feel confident and comfortable to begin the conversation?
And then you can have that conversation, which we've had a lot because we have a CR here. So we have a lot of those conversations. And so I'm not going to bring up, when I bring this up, just know it's not pointing to anybody.
Right.
It's just, we have a lot of folks that have to deal with this issue. We've had many men and women who have gone to their parents, or we're talking specifically mom, and said, this is what I need from you. For us to have a relationship, I need you to clean up this mess. And when you do, I'd love to get together with you.
Right.
And that's coming from their counselors and that kind of thing. And like I said, one mom did that.
Right.
You know what? And then she was a grandmother, the whole bit, and did that. But another mom, and I've heard, unfortunately, many go, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And so it's about, again, it goes, I give two scriptures for all of us. James 4:10, humble yourself before the Lord and he will lift you up. It's something I always have to keep at the front of my mind because as a man, pride gets in the way and you want to be right.
Yep.
I want to be right.
I am right.
I'm not doing general.
Right.
I want to be right.
Yeah.
And the other one is confess our sins to each other and pray for each other so we may be healed. James 5:16. James is very practical.
Right.
And so if we could take those two verses. So right now, if you are struggling with maybe an estrangement with your kids or an estrangement with mom, those are two things that we can do. Guys and girls here, because I'm a dad and a son. So, humble ourselves before the Lord so he could lift us up. So we put ourselves in a humbling place and also confess our sins to each other and pray for each other so we may be healed. And we need to be wise.
Yeah.
We need to be wise. We need to be able to have, sometimes we're going to have healthy boundaries and honoring would be sometimes keeping that boundary because the person or persons is not ready. For that. So again, not admonishing anybody. What I'm bringing up is what I know I have to do.
Yes.
And so, for me, it's a way. For me, it has to be. I'm praying for somebody in my life and praying for healing and reconciliation. They don't live here, don't live in the city. And I'm praying for that person to humble themselves to finally start reconciling the things that were already brought to them.
Right.
Because that affects all of us.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'd love to see that. My sister Denise did that years ago and came and said, "Hey, this is where I'm at."
Yeah, and it's really important.
Oh, by the way, I've had to do that with my oldest daughter. Both my daughters, I've had to come and go and make amends. I mean, that's something we need to do.
I just ran into a situation recently with a family member, and my uncle did some things years ago when my grandfather died, and the family, including me, were not very happy with him. We disagreed with the decisions he made. The whole gamut, right? And
it was a mess.
It was a mess, huge. And however, his mother, my grandmother, who I adored, I mean, she was, except when she was driving that silly Volkswagen, scared the life out of me. Anyway, he took care of her towards the end, and nobody would have anything to do with him. And I had talked to Rita, my wife, about him several times, and Teddy and I, we're only 10 years apart.
Yeah.
Okay. And so growing up, literally together, right? And so Ted reached out. He was going to be in Florida. Asked if I would meet him for dinner. He'd not met Rita.
Sure.
And so we drove down to Sarasota, had dinner with him, had several very long conversations after that. And I realized I've been missing out.
Yeah.
And so did he realize that he'd been missing out. And whose fault was it? I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I held on to some resentment that I should not have held on to. I should have gone to him and say, "Ted,
I didn't like what you did.
I didn't like what you did. Explain. Or let's try and move past this." And I didn't do that.
Yeah, that's the danger of a lot of folks doing that. Yeah.
My mom did.
Yeah.
And
she went immediately to him and talked to him.
Not immediately, but when he was in Colorado, and they were only about 6-7 hours apart, Canyon City, and Mom started going down there to visit her mom.
Sure.
And there was an estrangement there, but I can tell you that my mom constantly prayed for Ted.
Sure.
And never had the animosity towards him that the rest of the family did.
Yeah.
And so it was a very, very interesting situation. And I know that most of the family doesn't understand how much that estrangement between Ted and Mom affected both of them.
Yeah.
And they both passed on. Mom was responsible for Teddy coming to Christ.
No, there we go.
Mom was responsible for her mom coming to Christ.
And
for her father coming to Christ.
And that kind of thing happened with my sister and my mom, which it was neat. And honestly with my sister and all of us.
Yeah.
And what I have right now and what we see in some of the people here is that they've gone to these people, if it's gone to a mother or a daughter, and said, "This is what I need from you," or a son or an uncle or an aunt, and said, "Hey, this is what I need from you to make this cleaned up." And the unwillingness to do that is sad.
Yeah.
And you can't, and by the way, if you're in kind of a situation like that, just keep on praying, keep living. Don't let that stuff control you. Keep living, and keep the boundaries like you need right now, because the codependency is very easy to go over there and go, okay, well, there's nothing happened, and we're just going to kind of go from this. No, then that person will probably do that again, and do that again to somebody else. Yeah. And so we need to be healthy there, but we also need to be praying. And I know my mom, one of the big things was prayer. It honored her. And so I wanted that. Tanya is a big prayer person. You got to be praying for people, and even those people she's not, getting along with, and has had,
and we all have those,
and has had to put out boundaries, and that's okay. But I know that for her, she'd be ready immediately if someone came over and said, she has a couple of people that she's had to do that with, and she knew that if they came over, she would, let's get this cleaned up.
Yep.
This is what I needed from you. I already told you already. Yeah. And this is what I need. And that's a healthy way of doing it. I've done that with some of the men here in the church, and I've done that with, and honestly, some men have done that with me. Hey, we're not in a good place unless, this hurt me.
Yeah.
Now I have a decision to run from it
Right.
or deal with it, right?
Yeah.
And so for us, coming on a Mother's Day, how do we honor mom? How do we, and we're not moms, so we don't know what it feels like if you're not honored.
Right.
That's the other thing. What do you do if you are not being honored by your kids, grandkids, whatever? What do you do with that?
Yeah.
And having two guys try to answer that. I mean, I guess we can feel like what it would feel like as dads not being honored.
Yeah.
And okay, that's a choice by other people not to honor, right?
Right.
And I think that we would have to be able to, pray about that, obviously. At least for me, I would have to kind of go, okay, I get it. That's where we're at right now. And I'm still going to live my life.
Yeah.
I can't be controlled by that.
Yeah.
But that's still hard. And I'm not a woman, so.
Yeah, that's tough. But we would encourage you as we come upon Mother's Day to honor your mom. If you're struggling and estranged, you got to pray. Yeah. You really got to pray. And moms, if you have estranged children, you got to pray.
Well, another thing too, I think that we could do is, if there's that, go to counseling.
Yes, absolutely.
Get some help. So if you're a kid who's struggling with mom, go get the counseling you need, and then listen to what they have to say and do what they need. They say there. Continue to reach out. Say that this is my boundary. I'd love to see it go somewhere else, but if it doesn't, I'm okay with keeping that distant. But on the same token, how do we as human beings honor moms generally? That's a good question. How do we generally honor motherhood? Yeah. Because Mary and Elizabeth had, John the Baptist and Jesus. Yeah. Yeah. And they're like I couldn't imagine mothering two people like that.
Yeah. I think of Hannah.
Oh, yes.
For so many years she was barren. She was mocked.
Yeah, she was.
And her prayer, Eli thought she was drunk while she was praying. She was praying so violently and so passionately. Yeah. And Eli says, go, your prayers have been answered. Yeah. She conceives and brings Samuel.
Yeah.
And gives him up.
Because she promised that to God.
She promised God.
So I think that some things we could do is just say how the value of moms. Okay, so the value of mom is we wouldn't be here without mom.
That's right.
That's one big deal. I think another value of mom is that, and again, I'm not going to go to the people who have had a really difficult relationship with their mother, because I know that this can turn them off, and that's what I'm trying to avoid here. But we can honor moms at least by males, being men, to be able to say, hey, okay, moms are valuable. We need to be having moms heard, seen, and valued.
Yes, absolutely.
I guess heard, seen, and valued. And I think everybody wants that. Yeah. And so for moms that are watching this, I hope we didn't turn you off with some of this stuff. Right. But this is two goofy men trying to figure this whole thing out. But I think that we could say that you are honored, that you are valued, that you're heard, and you're seen. And men, if you're watching this, maybe that's what we should be doing as men. And if you're a daughter or a mother, maybe we should be doing that with each other, is that maybe give some value to each other and be able to say, hey, you're going to be heard, you're going to be seen, and you're valued. And I think that we need to do that a lot. More than probably what we're doing.
Yeah, probably do.
Unfortunately.
So this has been David Towner and Sam McKeown with Today is My Favorite Day, and we truly are here to honor our mothers.
Moms are awesome.
Are awesome.
You guys are awesome.
Intentionally be very blessed, my friends. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to TIMFD. Today is My Favorite Day. Views, comments, and opinions are those of the host and guest alone, and Dave and Sam are solely responsible for the content of this podcast. TIMFD is produced and directed by Alex Korn. Music is composed and performed by Chuck Ball. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, live intentionally, and be very blessed.